The biggest reason businesses never build a proper marketing system is not about money or skill, it's about overwhelm. They look at the whole thing, all the parts, all the connections, all the work, and it feels so enormous that they freeze and do nothing. Or they build scattered pieces that never connect. The way past this is through an idea I call the minimum viable ecosystem, the smallest connected version of a system that actually works. You don't need to build the entire system to start getting results. You need the minimum viable version, small but generally connected and working. And then you grow from there. In this video, I will show you what a minimum viable ecosystem is and why starting small but connected beats starting big or starting scattered. I will show you what the smallest working system actually contains and how to grow it on purpose into a complete one without ever feeling overwhelmed. If you run a business, especially as a founder or a professional service, you probably stalled on building a real marketing system at least once because the whole system felt too big to start. I spent over 27 years in B2B marketing, and the businesses that actually get a system running are almost never the ones with the biggest plan. They're the ones who started with the smallest version that genuinely worked. This is one piece of a bigger framework I call the conversion ecosystem. And my goal is to use this system to help you become the most visible, the most valuable, and the most trusted business in your market. So if that interests you, keep watching. Let's start with the real enemy because naming it correctly is half the solution. The thing that stops most businesses from building a marketing system is not lack of resources or lack of knowledge. It's overwhelm. When you look at a complete marketing system with all of its parts and connections, it looks so large and complex that it feels impossible. And that feeling of impossibility produces one of two failures. The first failure is paralysis. Faced with something that feels too big, the business simply does not start. They keep meaning to build a proper system, but the scale of it is so daunting that they never begin. So they default to the occasional random marketing instead. The overwhelm does not just slow them down, it stops them entirely because the whole thing feels like too much to take on. Months and years pass with no system built purely because of the overwhelm. Breaking the paralysis is exactly what the conversion ecosystem is built to do. The second failure is scattered building. Some businesses, faced with the overwhelm, try to tackle it, but can't hold on to the whole system in their mind. So they build in pieces in isolation and add here some content there, never connecting them. They're active, even busy, but because they couldn't approach the system as a connected whole, they end up with disconnected pieces that don't work together. The overwhelm pushed them into building scattered parts rather than a connected system. Both failures come from the same source. They try to relate to a system as one enormous complete thing. Whether it produces paralysis or scattered building, the overwhelm of the complete system is what derails their effort. As long as you're looking at the whole daunting system, you'll either freeze or you're scattered. The problem is not the system. It's approaching it as an overwhelming whole. The minimum viable ecosystem solves this by changing what you build first. Instead of facing the overwhelming complete system, you build the smallest version that actually works. It's small enough to be entirely manageable, but connected, and enough to genuinely function. This sidestepped overwhelm completely because you're no longer taking on the daunting whole. You're building one small complete working thing and then growing it. The shift from overwhelming whole to the minimum viable version is what gets you unstuck. Let's clarify the key principle because it has two parts that both matter. Small, but connected. The minimum viable ecosystem is small, which beats trying to build big, and it's connected, which beats trying to build scattered pieces. Understanding why both parts matter is essential because dropping either one leads back to the failure. First, why small beats big. Trying to build the complete system at once produces the overwhelm we just discussed, leading to paralysis or scattered effort. Building small by contrast is manageable. You can actually do it, finish it, and get it working because it's small enough to complete. And a small thing that's finished and working beats a big thing that's half built or never started. So, small wins. Small isn't the goal itself. Doable is the goal. And small is what makes something doable. But small alone isn't enough. This is where the second part comes in. Connected. A small system is generally connected when the few parts feed each other and actually work because it has an essential property of an ecosystem. The parts work together, and this is a crucial difference between scattered building. Scattered pieces, however many, don't work because they're disconnected. A small but connected system works because even with a few parts, the connections let the value flow. Connection, not size, is what makes the system function. So the magic of the minimum viable ecosystem is combining both. Small enough to actually build and finish, but connected enough to actually work. Drop the small and you're overwhelmed. Drop the connected and you're back to scattered pieces that don't function. Hold both together and you get something rare and powerful. A system you can actually complete that actually produces results right from the start, however small. This reframes the whole challenge of building a marketing system. The goal is not to build the biggest or the most complete. It's to build the smallest connected system that works and then grow it from there. You're not trying to do everything at once. You're trying to get a small, complete loop running and then expand on it on purpose. That shift from building everything to building the smallest connected thing that works is what makes building a system finally achievable. So what does a minimum viable ecosystem actually contain? What is the smallest set of connected parts that genuinely works? While the details vary by business, the principle stays the same. It contains the minimum parts needed to carry someone from the first encounter all the way to becoming a customer, with those parts connected so value flows through. Let me describe the essential elements. First, you need a way to attract the right people, something that brings potential buyers into your world. This is the entry point. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It has to genuinely attract some of the right people. Without an entry point, nothing can flow through the system because no one enters it. So the smallest system needs at least one working way to bring the right people in. Second, you need a way to capture the people you attract, to turn an anonymous visitor into a known contact you could reach again. Without capture, everyone you attract simply leaves and nothing builds up. Capture is what lets you hold on to the people you attract and continue the relationship, which is essential for carrying them towards becoming a customer. So the smallest system needs a way to capture the people it attracts. Third, you need a way to build trust and stay present with the people you capture. Some sort of follow-up that nurtures a relationship over time. Because trust is what carries a captured contact towards purchase, you need at least a basic way to keep delivering value and building trust after capture. Without it, captured contacts go cold. So the smallest system needs a way to nurture the people it captures. And fourth, you need a way to convert, an offer and a path for a trusting contact to actually become a customer. Without a clear way to convert, all the attracting, capturing, and nurturing leads nowhere. So the smallest system needs a way to turn a trusting, nurtured contact into a paying customer. Put these four together: attract, capture, nurture, and convert. Connect them so each feeds the next, and you have a minimum viable ecosystem. It's small, but complete enough that the value can flow all the way from stranger to customer. That connected flow, however modest, is what makes it work. Scale each of those four pieces up over time, and you get what I call the content flywheel engine. But it starts exactly here: small and simply connected. Let's look at why a small minimum viable ecosystem produces real results, because this is what makes it worth building before you have a complete system. The reason is simple but powerful. Because it's connected, value flows all the way through from stranger to customer, which means it actually produces customers even at a small scale. Compare this with scattered pieces which produce nothing no matter how many you have, because the value leaks away in every disconnection. A minimum viable ecosystem, though small, has no critical disconnections in its core loop. So the value flows to attract, to capture, to nurture, to convert without leaking away. The result that it produces is actual customers, where scattered pieces produce only activity. Connection, even on a small scale, is what turns effort into results. This means the minimum viable ecosystem gives you something invaluable, a working system that produces results from the start, which you can then improve and grow. Instead of waiting until you have built the complete system before seeing any results, you get a small working system producing customers early. That early success funds and motivates the connected building. You're not building in the dark, hoping that it'll eventually work. You have a working loop from the beginning, producing real results that you could build on. It also lets you learn what works before you scale. With a small working loop running, you can see what's actually happening, what attracts the right people, what captures them, what converts them, and find that based on real results. Then you grow the system and you grow something you know works, rather than scaling on a guess. The minimum viable ecosystem is not just a starting point. It's a learning system that tells you what to build more as you expand. Turn that into an actual build order, the specific assets to create first, and in what sequence, and you get what I call the minimum viable asset stack. So a small working loop is not a compromise or a lesser version. It's a genuinely powerful thing. It produces real customers from the start. It funds and motivates building. It teaches you what works before you scale. This is why building the minimum viable ecosystem first is so much more smarter than trying to build a complete system at once. You get a working, result-producing learning system early instead of a long, overwhelming build with no results until the end. Once you have a minimum viable ecosystem working, how do you grow it into a complete system without falling back into overwhelm? The answer is to grow it on purpose with one connected addition at a time, always keeping it working as you expand. You never face an overwhelming hole again because you're only adding one piece to the system that already worked. The principle of growth is to add one part, connect it, make sure the system works, and then add the next. You don't try adding everything at once, which would reintroduce the overwhelm. You add a single new element and maybe a new way to attract people, or a deeper nurture sequence, or an extra offer. You connect it into your working system, confirm the whole thing still flows, and then you move to the next addition. Growth is a series of small connected additions, never a giant leap. This keeps you out of overwhelm for good because at every stage, you're only working on one manageable addition to a working system. You're never staring at the daunting complete system. You're always just adding the single next piece to something that already works. Overwhelm comes from facing the whole at once, and growing on purpose makes sure that you never face that problem. You face one addition at a time, indefinitely, until the system is complete. It also keeps your system working throughout the growth, which is crucial, because you add one connected piece at a time and confirm that the system still works after each addition. You never break the working loop. The system produces results the whole time it grows, rather than being torn apart and rebuilt. You're always running a working system, just an increasingly capable one, as you connect parts over time. The results never stop while you build. And this is how you eventually arrive at a complete, sophisticated marketing system. Not by building it all at once. That's overwhelming and risky. You get there by starting with a minimum viable ecosystem and growing it on purpose, one connected addition at a time, and keep working on it throughout. You end up with the same complete system. You might have been overwhelmed at the very start, but you get there through a manageable, results-producing path that never overwhelmed you and never stopped working. The complete system is the destination. The minimum viable ecosystem and deliberate growth are how you get there. Let me close the teaching with the mindset that makes a minimum viable ecosystem work, because the mechanics only succeed if you hold the right mental model. The first part of the mindset is valuing finished and working over big and complete. You have to genuinely believe that the small system that works beats a big system that's half built or never started, because that belief is what lets you start small without feeling like you're settling. Small and working is not a compromise. It's a smarter path. The second part of the mindset is treating each connection as a non-negotiable, even at a small scale. The temptation when building small is to skip the connections and just build a few pieces, but that drops you back into scattered building that doesn't work. You have to insist that whatever you build, however small, is connected, because connection is what makes it a working system rather than scattered pieces. Small is flexible. Connection is not. Never sacrifice the connections to build faster or bigger. The third part of the mindset is patience with growing on purpose. It's tempting, once your small system works, to rush and add everything at once, which reintroduces overwhelm and risks breaking the working loop. You have to embrace growing on purpose, one connected addition at a time, trusting that this steady, manageable growth will get you to a complete system without getting overwhelmed. Patience with this one-at-a-time growth is what keeps you out of overwhelm for good. Hold these three together. Value finished and working over big and complete. Treat connections as a non-negotiable. Be patient with growing on purpose. And the minimum viable ecosystem becomes not just a technique, it becomes a whole approach to building. It's how you go from frozen by overwhelm to running a working system that grows steadily into a complete one, without ever facing the daunting hole and without ever stopping producing results. And this connects to a larger philosophy behind thinking, which I call ecosystem thinking. Build a connected system, avoid scattered pieces, and build it in a way that you could actually achieve. The minimum viable ecosystem is how a powerful idea of an ecosystem becomes practical for a real business that would have otherwise been overwhelmed. Start with the smallest connected version that works and then grow it on purpose. That is how you build the system that makes you the most visible, the most valuable, and the most trusted business in your market. One connected working step at a time. Here are the essentials. The reason most businesses never build a marketing system is overwhelm, which produces either paralysis or scattered disconnected pieces. The minimum viable ecosystem solves this. Instead of facing the overwhelm of a complete system, you build the smallest connected version that actually works. Small enough to finish, connected enough to function. Small but connected beats both big, which overwhelms, and scattered, which doesn't work. The smallest working system contains the minimum connected parts to carry someone from stranger to customer, which are attract, capture, nurture, and convert. Because it's connected, value flows all the way through. It produces real customers from the start, funds further building, and teaches you what works before you scale. You then grow it on purpose, one connected edition at a time, keeping it working throughout until it becomes a complete system without ever facing the overwhelming hole. So stop being frozen by the size of the complete system, start small, stay connected, and grow on purpose. Build the smallest connected version that works, get it producing results, and then expand it one connected step at a time. That's how you grow into a complete system that makes you the most visible, the most valuable, and the most trusted business in your market. This idea is a piece of a larger system, the conversion ecosystem, and every video here connects to another part of it, with more information in the description. If this video changed how you see your own marketing, make sure you watch this next one. Remember, the most visible, the most valuable, the most trusted business in your market wins. The whole point of the conversion ecosystem is to help you build a system that makes you all three.